Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're going with our fifth and final segment of the night, talking top storylines from Florida's first cup. Alright, which one do I want to go with first? Because let me tell you, there's so many of them that, these players, it meant so much for them. And there's so many guys that got their first cup, and it does so much for their career. I'll go with him first. Sergei Bobrovsky wins his first Stanley Cup. I talked about him in my first segment of the night. How much I loved watching Sergei Bobrovsky growing up. This guy, one of the best careers I've seen with my own two eyes. Almost won the Hart Trophy in 2017. He's a two-time Vezina winner. Has been nominated for the Vezina. This is his fifth or sixth year this year being nominated for the Vezina now. It's something special seeing this guy play hockey. It means a lot to me that he won a Stanley Cup, hoisting it. This guy now, I think, is a bona fide Hall of Famer. And it's not crazy to say that. We just got done talking about the Hall of Fame inductees for the 2024 year. And I would say that Bobrovsky has had a better career than Shea Weber and JR, probably. He's only played in 700 games in his career, but he is a goaltender. So you don't play in all 82 games even when healthy as a goaltender, so it makes sense. 700 games played in his career, averaging a .915 save percentage, a .259 goals against average. On Columbus, .921 save percentage, a .241 goals against average. He had 33 shutouts in his time in Columbus. He's special. He's a special player, and to see him get a Stanley Cup means a lot. And I'm so happy for him. Bobrovsky absolutely deserving of it. When he got that $10 million contract by Florida, I was probably the first one to say that this is an overpay, but it has proven to not be. And Sergei Bobrovsky deserving of his cup. He is 35 years old now. He might be coming to the end of his career, but getting the Stanley Cup now with Florida is something special to see. Moving on to another guy that it was really special to see him win the Stanley Cup. It was Paul Maurice. When he got the cup to hoist it, he was in an interview with ABC. He paused in his interview. He turned around. He said something to... Who was it that handed him the cup? I think it was a defenseman that handed him the cup, but I don't know which one. But when he got the cup, he said something to the guy's ear that gave him the cup, and he just hoisted it over his head, closed his eyes, and breathed in. And that was such a special moment for a guy that he's been trying to do this for a long time. He tasted it in 2002 when the Carolina Hurricanes lost in the Stanley Cup Final. And ever since that moment, he's been chasing it. 22 years later, he is still an NHL head coach. And you could say failure after failure, but let me tell you, this one meant a lot for him. Spent a long time in Winnipeg, did Paul Maurice, just not being able to get it done. His first Stanley Cup in his career, and it's a special one for the coach of the Florida Panthers. Paul Maurice, absolutely deserving of it. One of the best head coaches of the generation, one of the best minds. And let me tell you, just listening to a bunch of his post-game pressers, he's a guy that you could root for. He's a guy that you could be happy for to win a Stanley Cup. So it does mean a lot for Paul Maurice to win this thing. Another guy that it meant so much for him to win this thing is Kyle Okposo. This guy was the captain of the Buffalo Sabres at their worst. The Buffalo Sabres were horrible when, in the mid-2010s. And that's when Kyle Okposo was on that team and trying to get that team back to relevancy. Unable to do that was Kyle Okposo. However, gets off of the Buffalo Sabres, goes to the Florida Panthers, is a Stanley Cup champion after telling his kid before this Game 7, I used to play roller sticks, or I used to play mini sticks in the driveway on rollerblades, and now I'm playing in a Game 7. I always envisioned of this moment when I was playing, when I was a kid. And, that's just something special, I think the team really took that to heart. I think 3 guys mentioned that after they won the Stanley Cup, that those words that Kyle Okposo said to the team really hit hard with them and helped them win the Stanley Cup here in this Game 7. Because, I mean, I was that kid and I never played hockey. I mean, I was that kid that was in the driveway shooting into a laundry basket, imagining that it was a Game 7 of a Stanley Cup Final. So it is something special. And for a guy that has played in over 1,000 games in his NHL career, not playing in the playoffs ever because he was on the Buffalo Sabres, and finally being able to make a playoff run when he gets onto the Florida Panthers this year, and winning a Stanley Cup for a guy that was a captain of such a horrific team is great to see for Kyle Okposo. It's something special for him, and it really is for a bunch of these Buffalo Sabres guys. Sam Reinhart, Buffalo Sabres guy. Evan Rodriguez, a Buffalo Sabres guy. Kyle Okposo, as we mentioned, a Buffalo Sabres guy. I know that there's more, but they're escaping me in my head. Very special. 2 guys that this is also very special for. The 2 guys that have stuck through thick and thin with the Florida Panthers. It's Alexander Barkov and Eric Ekblad. Number 1 overall pick in 2014. Number 2 overall pick in 2013. These 2 players have been the backbone of the Florida Panthers, and it is a little bit bittersweet for me, for Jonathan Huberdeau to not also be their 2011 first-round pick for the Florida Panthers. But for this Panthers team, the 2 constants have been Alexander Barkov and Aaron Ekblad, and those 2 have really led to the identity that the Florida Panthers play with today. They lead to that defensive-minded style that has led the Florida Panthers to winning a Stanley Cup. The probably best defensive forward that the NHL has, winning his 2nd Selke this year, and one of the best defensive defensemen of the NHL in Aaron Ekblad. It really is special to see those 2 lift the cup. So very happy for just all of the guys on the Florida Panthers. It's an easy team to root for because all of these players deserve this. They went through it last year. They went through some hardship last year when they lost to the Vegas Golden Knights. Watched them hoist the Stanley Cup in 5 games nonetheless, kind of not even having a prayer in that one. Now they turn around, go up 3-0, and able to warn off just what would have been the greatest comeback in all of sports is so special for the Florida Panthers. So Florida Panthers, the 2024 NHL champions, winning the Stanley Cup, the hardest trophy to win in all of sports. We just talked about in the previous segment 2 guys that just were named into the Hall of Fame comfortably, probably, deserving of their Hall of Fame invites in JR and Shea Weber, never winning a Stanley Cup. It's hard to win this trophy. It really, really is. Especially in the years of, these dynasties that we're seeing. Maybe not so much lately, but when you're in the years of the Blackhawks in the early 2010s or the Kings in the early 2010s, and then going to the Penguins mid-2010s, then going into the Tampa Bay Lightning of the late 2010s, or of the early 2020s, I guess. It's hard to win the Stanley Cup. It's hard if you're not on any one of these teams. Carter Verhaeghe is now a 3-time Cup champion, twice with the Lightning and once with the Panthers. This is also the 3rd time in 5 years that the Cup is going to Florida. So congratulations to, I guess, the state of Florida for another Stanley Cup champion. As there was talks of it being the worst state for hockey. I think we could put those words to bed now. And congratulations to the Florida Panthers for winning the Stanley Cup. But that'll wrap it up for the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you all for tuning in. Your support means so much to us. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. And if you did enjoy the show, also follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to get more sports updates from the GSMC Sports Network. I thank all of you guys one final time for your support here. It does mean a lot to me. And have a fantastic and wonderful evening.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't